Hey everybody, it's Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And me.
It's the
Surprise.
spooky season.
Spooky. Am I a ghost? Am I the ghost host? Am I the ghost with the
Are
most?
you the Goblin Queen?
Am I a goblin?
Because the
Am
necklace.
I not? You'll never know.
What are we talking about today, Victoria?
I'm just thinking about that concept art of Jareth sitting on the chair. Uh, we are talking about some Imagination Station books, which we all know everyone wants to hear a whole lot. The second book that we're going to talk about actually wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't.
The first one was kind of weird
Yeah.
and dry, though.
Uh,
I liked one person in it. There's always that happens in like every single Imagination Station book. There's always one person I like, and then they're never in it enough. Bernard just disappeared like in the second book twice. Never saw him again.
so, what books are we talking about today, Victoria?
We're gonna talk about one that has cannibals
Mm-hmm.
and one that has escaping to places.
Yes, books 8 and 9, Battle for Cannibal Island and Escape to the Hiding Place. So,
Yes.
first book, Battle for Cannibal Island, is written by Marianne Herring and Wayne Thomas Batson. Um, what happens in this one, Victoria?
So, Beth and Patrick, I totally forgot how the last book
So did
ended.
I.
So
It
I was
ended
like,
with
oh, I
nothing,
thought,
with no draw or hook towards the next
yeah, I
one.
was like, oh, I thought there was conflict. So get this. Remember how it was kind of like a Magic Treehouse ripoffy, where it's just like, oh, there's arcs, and we gotta like do a thing, and it has a little bit of the arc, like each book. Our new draw is that there's no draw.
See,
They're all
we
just one shots now.
we could be different than the Magic Treehouse by being even more boring in more ways than we were previously.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
Speaking of, because I bring it up every time, I'm glad to see that 8 books in now, we are still including the same pull quote at the beginning from a 7-year-old about how these books talk much more about God than the Magic Treehouse books.
Can I just say the beginnings of the books have really improved? Like a
Yes,
whole lot,
definitely
because
over
it
the
doesn't
one.
have the repeating sentences that are very short
Yeah.
that give a brief recap of everyone's relationships for 3 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it starts and it's very nice. Honestly, I feel like it's a lot more like an Odyssey episode now.
It's a strong statement, but
Because it
more
doesn't have
like
the
we're
weird
we're
time
moving.
travel ring stuff where the Imagination Station acts weird. It doesn't
Yes,
do all this crazy stuff. It's just straight up like go on an adventure, learn a lesson, even if it's a
it's true. Yes,
lesson that
it's not like the
it's not
items.
good.
It's not like
And
the
then it
magical MacGuffins that they have are being physically handed to them by Wit outside of the imagination station that then disappear over the course of the adventure. They're like
mm-hmm.
just manifest when they go into it because it's part of the adventure. It's not a real item that Wit's giving them.
Yeah,
Uh
this
huh.
is this is a lot better. Things are better this way. I actually like it a lot more this way. Um I was gonna say something. I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, the lesson in the first book isn't good, but we will get into that. Just
Yeah, we
the
will.
the thing with Beth at the end, where never mind. I'll talk about it after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Patrick's in a bad mood and complaining about a lot of stuff. And confession time, I read both of these books within under 2 hours last night. Sped read them just so I could start reading the new Blackguard book, which I got over halfway through before I fell asleep. So, and I made myself go to sleep because it was past 2 in the morning. So I could finish it this morning before church.
How'd all the application stuff go today, Victoria?
I was too tired from reading the books last night, so I just kind of slept all afternoon. Yeah. So we can talk about it after, once we're not recording. So, Patrick's in a bad mood. Beth is nice to him anyway. Patrick hacks the imagination station by hitting it a bunch until they go into an adventure, basically,
Hack
when
the
they're not
planet.
supposed to. He hacks it by saying, "Ooh, let's press all these buttons when we shouldn't. I bet pressing the red button will do nothing." And then going on an adventure where they almost get eaten, which I can
Why?
only assume is their punishment for going in the station when not supposed to.
Why is the imagination station in the basement of Wits End still? Like, it's supposed to be fixed now, isn't it? It's not locking people out of it and manifesting weird notes from the past anymore. It's the most popular attraction in the store. Why hasn't Wit put it back upstairs? Unless the version upstairs is the room one, and this is just like sitting defunct in the basement now.
I don't know. I can only assume that Beth and Patrick keep breaking it a little bit every time they go into it, so that they're the only
Every
ones allowed to
imagination
use
station is like, every time you touch me, I die a little more.
it. That's me every time I read one of these books. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I feel like I need to be nicer to the authors. They're trying their best. The book was an improvement, I think, over the past ones. Kind of boring though. So they go on a pirate ship, and then they find out that there's cannibals afoot and a boat. And then it gets really convoluted. Some guys like try to escape the ship, but then Patrick falls overboard with another guy, and Beth ends up a prisoner, and Patrick's a prisoner, but then he's not a prisoner, and then Beth isn't a prisoner anymore either. And then some cannibals try to like see Queen Victoria, but that doesn't pan out. And then they fight at the end, and then a guy who's the cannibal king is hunting for like Patrick, and then Beth almost dies, but she doesn't. And the cannibal king rescues her, and then he gets shot because people thought he was attacking her, and then he becomes a Christian, and then it ends. And there was a missionary guy too who was pretty cool. I liked him the most. He was my favorite. And then it was like, oh, in the imagination station I see. And Patrick was like, the lesson I learned is when people are mean to you, be nice. Like, I'm a huge jerk, but Beth was still nice to me and tolerates me. And then it ended. Yeah. I did not like that bit tacked on the end with Patrick and Beth. It was just like, Patrick's like, the villain I met along the way was actually me, and Beth was the
like
hero.
last time when he was
and
like, I guess school isn't as bad as slavery. Which is like the literal sentence that he said.
Yeah.
So, it's funny because at first I was like, well, we have another The Gang Learns About Racism book. Except it turns out it wasn't in the end. All of the racism was just kind of unaddressed in the end, which is probably even more unsurprising. Where like the captain literally says at the beginning, like, these like disgusting barbarian savages don't like deserve to call themselves humans and stuff like that. Which
I
is
watched
just
Pocahontas
like,
too right before reading these books.
Not addressed at all. No like condemnation or commentary there that happens at all. And once again, I find myself very irritated by the fact that these books always translate the language for the kids, except when it's supposed to be some group that's considered like more primitive or savage, more othered. Like, it's all well and fine to translate Hebrew or Egyptian so that the kids can understand it. Even the English that was spoken during the War of the Roses in Book 4 would be utterly indecipherable to American children. But when it's Native Americans and Fijians speaking, we have to have an in-adventure translator for you so that you remember that they're not like you are.
I mean, wouldn't it?
Those are the only two times in the
Shouldn't
whole
it
series.
just stick with like one language being translated instead of every language?
But why? Because in all of the other stories, they've been
know.
able to understand everyone except for these two stories.
Have they?
Yeah. It's
I
not
thought
like...
everyone else was speaking the same language usually in the other stories.
Well, they were. But I'm just saying, when you come into... It's just like, it's a pattern that definitely emerges. Like, wouldn't it have been interesting instead if they could only understand the Fijians and they needed a translator to understand the boat people.
That'd be cool.
It would be. It would be a much more interesting like sociological take on the expectations around like otherness and like primitiveness culturally. But obviously they didn't and would never do that. And I mean, on a similar topic with like talkie, I really wish AIO was ever capable of showing literally anyone of a different faith, apart from the one old Jewish guy in the painting, as being anything other than dangerous and violent. It creates such an awful heuristic for people. They can never, ever show anyone who's of a different religion where it isn't like, I'm trying to actively physically harm you. And it's like, those are just the associations then that kids will make if that's the only perspective that they get from their media. And even in the story, where it's like, oh, we can see that Taki is going to decide to become a Christian. The only reason he did it is because he was scared to death that, like, everyone around him died, and he's like, God is punishing me. I need to become a Christian now, or God is going to smite me to death as well. Like, that is literally the worst possible basis to become a Christian. That's an awful message to send to children. Like, he didn't become a Christian because he wanted the love of Jesus, because he felt bad for what he did. He did it because he was scared God was going to kill him immediately, imminently, if he didn't.
Yeah. Like I said, I just came off learning about Pocahontas' life going into this book, so she had to deal with some stuff. So I was kind of thinking about that for a lot of the book.
Yeah. Second one was much better. This one left a very sour taste in my mouth.
This one, I thought was also just boring, kind of.
Yeah.
The one line where they're conveying messages through drums, like across the island. Is that something you can do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think in the Civil War, in the American Revolution, right?
Yeah, that's true. That one line where they're like, is that message true? And the guy was like, the drums never lie. And I was like, what if someone's trying to trick you using the drums? How do you know that's true?
Literally the easiest way to lie. It'd be even harder to recognize someone's drum beat than like when Wit in World War II was like, hey, his like signaling is weird, like his hand shape is strange. That's an imposter.
I just want a moment where he gasps and he's like, the drums lied to me. What do you mean?
Ben, the calzones betrayed me.
The drums betrayed me.
So what was the stuff you were going to say about Beth, or was that just about the lesson getting shoehorned in?
I just like, I don't know. I thought it was weird that they chose to go with Beth as like the person to get the lesson from. Because like, yeah, like Patrick was kind of like grumpy and rude at the beginning, but Patrick was just like, I'm a horrible person, and Beth is not. And
like, you feel like it felt unfairly balanced in terms of character development?
No, I don't. I just felt like it was, the way it came off as like, to me, stronger than like the other stuff that they were trying to convey.
I see.
In the island. And I just thought they could have like, I don't know, they maybe should have like reiterated some of the other stuff they wanted that
instead
to
of
stick
being
more,
like,
instead of like the note they left us on. It's just like, be nice to your cousins. It's just like, don't kill people, respect this, do this, and be nice to your cousins. And then it ends, and I was just like, what kind of...
This is the practical application lesson, in case you missed it. The end.
Saturday morning cartoon nonsense. But yeah.
That's valid.
So, I don't really have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 4 out of 10 for this one.
Don't we usually do out of 5? I know it's been a while, but we
yes, it is.
Points out of 5.
Yeah, 2 out of 5. Wow, it has been a long time. I was like, why does this sound
Yeah.
weird to me?
I'd say, yeah, like 2 out of 5 too. The I know I
Two out of
always like
52. That's crazy low.
gush about the art and stuff, but like the I don't know. I guess this is more on the writing than the art. But the design for Taki was like the most stereotypical Islander
Hmm.
design ever. Also, the turtle thing, I don't know if that's like a real thing. It was just kind of made me think of Stephen King and like the universe turtle.
I forgot about the turtle thing. I was also kind of upset that he was like, I'm going to shatter your sacred artifacts unless you let me go. Like, that is pretty
I mean,
rude.
he was gonna kill him if he
Yeah, but
didn't.
I think there was like another way out. Like, he didn't have to, like, there's other stuff he could have done with the turtle shells besides, like,
Probably.
quite as forwardly, like, I was like, that if you, like, flip the script to, like, other religions in there, you would immediately look at that and be like, that's not great. So, yeah.
Yeah, not really much to say about that
Yeah,
book.
I didn't really care for this one. Um,
Either.
but let's switch over. Let's talk about
It's the better
Escape
one.
to the Hiding Place.
We are about to be done too.
Oh, we were close to being done. We already had our
There, we'll
rating.
be fast. What do you
Yeah.
meant to say?
And then Victoria's recording stopped. So we lost it. All right, take 2 now. So, book 9, Escape to the Hiding Place, written by Marianne Herring, Marshall Younger. This one is one of the rare ones where they had an actual writer for the show who helped write the book, and it definitely shows.
It's a lot better than the last one was.
Mm-hmm. What happens in book 9, Victoria?
Okay, so Beth and Patrick they want to go into Red Cross. So they do like a bunch of reading on medical stuff, but they realize they have to be 11 to go into Red Cross training. So they can't, and they feel worthless as human beings. So then Whit puts them to work. Basically, he sends them on Imagination Station adventure where they are in Holland during the Nazi occupation, and they meet someone named Bernard who takes them to his family, and they have like a house where they're helping Jewish people hide, and a baby's taken in, and then Beth and Patrick volunteer to take the baby to her mother where she is off hiding in like a watch store where more people are being hidden and stuff.
Yes.
And this is just basically Beth and Patrick as they go on this adventure. It's very short. It's shorter than the last book.
Yeah, she's hiding in Corey Ten Boom's house at the end, which is cool. I figured at some point in the story, it's like there must be like some like famous person cameo.
I thought the baby was going to be the famous person and be like,
It's
you
Whit.
guys saved a really famous person. Whit's so old.
It's Whit. This is baby Whit. We saved him in Holland where he lived.
I mean,
this is the first Young Whit book, and then it ties.
The Young Whit books aren't done yet. We don't know what's not going to happen.
That he's not going to be. The cloth isn't going to turn him back into a baby, and then he goes to Holland.
The parachute silk that they wrapped around him was the Jesus cloth. It all lines up.
I mean,
it's all connected. You didn't connect it. It's connected.
I mean, now that I think about it, like, yeah, I mean, I guess I see what you mean. Like, this takes place after the Young Whit books, as boggling of the mind as that is.
Whit's so old.
He really is.
I was thinking about that while I was reading this book yesterday. I was thinking, like, okay, this is how old my grandma is. This is how old my parents are. This is how old Whit is. He's just very old because he was born in the 20s, wasn't he?
Yeah. Whit was already like 20 when our grandma was born.
Yeah, and this is like probably the early 40s. I don't remember what year the Nazis.
I'm gonna guess, yeah, it's probably like 1940. It'd be very early, probably.
Because I know that they occupied Holland like farther into the war, not like at the beginning or
Okay,
anything
I would
like
have
that.
guessed it was earlier. I guess it's a bit farther west than like Poland and stuff, so.
It's like something they did like a little bit earlier on, but not too early because Holland was one of the places where it's like they have a peace treaty. Like that's not supposed to be places. That's one of the places where it's a peaceful area and you're not supposed to fight there. And that's why everyone got so upset when the Nazis took it over because they weren't supposed to invade there.
Well, we're supposed to invade Poland either.
Yeah, but yeah, Poland and Holland were both places that they weren't supposed to invade. And that's why like so many people were sent to help. Like they sent a bunch of Canadian troops to go help out Holland and stuff, which they mention offhandedly in this book that the Canadian troops are going to be coming soon.
Yes.
So, there's this thing with a pilot in this book, and it annoys me. So basically, it starts. They go on in the adventure, and they see a plane crash, and it's supposed to be like, ooh, exciting! Is that pilot going to be their adventure friend? But instead, they meet their adventure friend on the way, and when they get to
I mean, I
the place
assumed
where
at the
plane
beginning
is-
that Bernard was the pilot, but then he wasn't.
Yeah, they meet this guy named Bernard, which, until proven otherwise, I'm just going to believe it is our Bernard, and he's just very old,
The
because
same age as Wit.
still not as old as Wit, so why not? So, basically, they go find the ship, and, not ship, plane, whatever.
The sky
They go
ship,
find
yeah. The
I was
clipper of
thinking
the
like
clouds, as
rocket
they
ship
say.
when I said it, not like boat.
Uh-huh.
They go find the plane, and they just find a parachute, basically. And because it's like silky material, precious goods,
Precious
they-
tritium.
precious silk, they take it so they can, I don't know, do stuff with it, because I guess silk is hard to find now.
I think
So-
silk is usually hard to find, given that it's silk,
Well,
but
cloth
harder.
in
Yes,
general is hard to find because keeps being taken away from them. So later, Beth and Patrick take the cloth, which, even though they found it, I got the feeling that the people who actually live there, and not the people who were just temporary, not time travelers, needed a lot more than they do.
Well, Beth didn't pack it, right? It was the mom who packed the basket
No,
with
Beth
stuff.
is the one who grabbed it.
Did she?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she did.
Because I'm pretty sure the mom was like, I've put some supplies and some food in this basket for you. Take it with you.
I'm pretty sure it was either Beth or Patrick that
Okay.
grabbed it. And I was like, that is not yours.
They just wanted to
get.
go into a field and like play like parachute games. And I mean, who doesn't?
Which is a mood.
Yeah. Just go back to kindergarten. Which they're basically in. Okay,
They're
so
very young. Wait, no, let me finish and then we'll get into your thing. So, they take it, and the thing they use this precious material for is to change the baby's diaper. Like, they could have used a pillowcase or something like that.
could have
like,
just ripped strips off of their shirts.
They could have done that. I was wondering why they didn't do that. They sounded like they needed the silk so much, and like they could have sold it for money or traded it for food or like done something really important.
I mean,
but Beth is like, I'm gonna turn it into a diaper, and I was like, what is wrong with you?
I mean,
and
they
then
can
the
wash
pilot
the silk.
never does anything. He serves no purpose. It's
Yes.
like the only reason it was there. He was there was just so they could either have an exciting 2 seconds, because that's all it lasts for, 2 seconds, or just so they have a direction to walk in, so they run into Bernard and meet Bernard, but they could have met Bernard literally if they were just walking in a straight line. So I do not understand the purpose at all. It could have just been cut. It doesn't matter at all.
The
and
pilot-
it frustrates me.
The pilot could have just thrown the parachute out of the plane and gone down with the plane, and it would have had the same effect.
It serves no purpose. The pilot did literally nothing. The pilot shows up injured, like, in the barn at one point, and you never see the pilot again, so I can only assume they died or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the pilot's name was. I don't remember if the pilot was given a name.
So, they take the baby and the bike.
Miriam. Which, they keep on calling the baby Miriam. I'm like, I would just really hope that the mom, like, either says, stop calling my baby that, the baby doesn't have a name, or, holy crap, the baby's name is Miriam, you witches. How did you figure that out? I was thinking, like, please let the mom not hear them calling the baby Miriam and then be like, oh, that's a nice name. Thank you for naming my baby. Because I was like, if I have to read one more story where it's just like someone who's not your baby names your baby because you're looking after them and then you use that name.
That baby grew up to be Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
I thought you were saying, and that baby Miriam grew up to be wit.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like when you, like, find a lost pet and you're like, well, I have to give you a name until I can find your owner. Like, so they're going on the bikes.
The bikes are made of rubber.
Well,
which...
I don't think the bikes are made of rubber.
I have a math question for you, Devin.
Okay.
If you have two 2-year-olds taking a 0-year-old on a bike at a very high speed, and they run into 2 cops, but then the cops send them on their way, and there is a man with determination and a dress in his satchel, how fast will the man catch up with the 2-year-olds on the 2 bikes?
Around sundown, because that's when curfew begins.
Bernard is so fast. Like, he should not have been able to outrun.
He was just like T-1000ing.
I really liked reading about the books and the locations because I just read a couple books earlier this month that have large sections that take place in Holland, and one of the characters was from Holland. So he, like, talks about how important bikes are and how, like, people are always riding bikes, and I recognized, like, not necessarily the name of a street they were going to, but, like, the naming conventions. Because, like, I don't know, all the street names are, like, very long, and they usually have double consonants or double vowels and stuff. So it might not be the same name as one of the ones I saw, but I did see a lot of names of streets mentioned
the linguistic patterns.
And, yeah, it matched up with the same kind of thing.
It checks out.
So I'm just going to say it is the same thing, even though it's probably not.
Yeah, we talked about before. So they get caught at literally every opportunity possible.
And we show how kids are empowered by having adults bail them out every single time.
Including the time when Beth gets caught, and so Patrick has to throw a homemade bomb off of the roof.
Patrick doesn't throw it, Bernard does.
Doesn't he hand it to Patrick? So he's like, here, throw one, Patrick.
No, he just has one. And Bernard throws it. I read it last night.
Okay. I thought Patrick threw one because I was like...
No, Bernard just takes out, like, a milk bottle, and he pours the milk out, which...
There's no food rations going on, right?
Exactly. And then he puts water in it, and he puts, like, these rocks in it, and then a rubber stopper, and then he shakes it up, and then he kind of just, like... And then he just casually says, like, oh yeah, it's a bomb. And Patrick's like, how do you know when it's going to go off? And then he's like, you don't. And then he throws it out the window and it explodes. And Bernard, like, elevated from being my favorite character in the book to one of the best characters in this whole series so far.
He cooked it for long enough that it exploded before it hit the ground, which says how close it was to exploding on them.
Also, I like how he threw it at the Gestapo and also Beth, who was holding a baby. And just like, this probably won't hit Beth or the baby.
I don't remember exactly what it was he put in there, but I think it was like lye or something like caustic.
He never explained it.
That was reacting, or at least I assumed it was.
Patrick was like, he put in a thing that looked like a rock. So when I was reading it, I just assumed he picked up a rock and he put it in some water, and then it exploded, and I was like...
Silly Victoria. It was clearly Mentos that he put into it, and the water was...
I'm sorry.
It was clear Coke. Coke Clear.
We are on provisions, but that doesn't mean we don't know our priorities in buying some Coke and some Mentos.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
know what's up.
And then they get to the shop and they get caught again for like the fourth time.
But Beth has a watch that doesn't work with little rhinestones on it. And then one of the guys grabs her arm at one point and looks at the watch and goes, "These aren't real diamonds." And she goes, "No, they're not." And then he drops her wrist. He's like, "Your watch is worthless. It's also broken."
Thanks for giving it back to me. I stole it from some guy. So then they get to Corey Ten Boom's place, and they go into the secret.
Patrick has like on his pants he has like the dust of that rock stuff, and water's just spilling towards him on the table.
My
and
pants.
He's like, Bernard, save me! Bernard, wipe it up before I explode.
Towel, Bernard.
Bernard, either that or get me pants I'm less invested in. I like the pineapple ones.
Yeah, and then that's how Bernard got there, was he drank some gasoline and Surge mixed together, and he turned into a car, and he was able to catch up to the bikes like Turbo Teen.
Before he did, he turned to everyone. He's like, "Never tell Beth or Patrick about this. I will deny it."
So, to get there, they go into the hiding place to give...
Maybe the pilot flew Bernard to where they were, so the pilot's actually relevant.
Yeah. They give the baby to a woman who is presumably the mother.
They don't say for the longest time. They're like, a mother snatched this baby and held it. And 5 minutes later, the lady is like, "Oh, I'm the mother, by the way." And I'm like, "I sure hope you are, because I don't want to deal with that baby anymore." So I guess it's yours by default.
And then the police come again into the room, and they're super quiet, and it's so tense and exciting on the edge of your seat that Patrick falls asleep in the middle of it.
As you do.
And then that's basically the end of it.
Yeah.
So from the intro, I never realized how young these kids are. Like, I knew they were babies, but I didn't know they were that baby. When they said, "It'll be forever before we're 11, I thought they were going to go, "That's 6 months away, not 3 years. They're infants. They're 8 years old. They're younger than almost every main kid character on Odyssey. Definitely shouldn't be allowed to witness most, if not all, of the violence that Wit has subjected them to in the Imagination Station."
Patrick's grandma sees him after the Cannibal Island thing when he goes over to her house, and she's like, "What's that you have, Patrick?" And he's like, "A pocket knife." And she's like, "No." Then she runs after him.
At the end of the last book, Patrick was standing beside a guy when he was like fatally wounded with like a shooter marble sized bullet like right through his shoulder, and Patrick is like standing over him as he's like bleeding out in the sand.
And Patrick's like, "Whoa, that's a lot of blood."
Yeah.
What a reaction for an 8-year-old to have.
Like, I mean, remember when they were in Egypt and they like killed a guy by like knocking him into the pit?
I do now.
They were probably 5 years old.
Their parents are like, "What did you guys do today?" They're like, "We killed a man." It was like, "Okay, no, we're going to what's end.
We will never speak of it. The blood oath is sealed."
Have you seen all those comics? I think you have. Where it's like Huey the Nightmare Child that fans have done with DuckTales.
Yes.
Where Huey, there's the one where there's so many about him, the Wood Scout. No, not Wood Scouts. Oh, I'm such a failure as a fan. What are they called?
The
Woodchucks.
Junior Woodchuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where like people do comics of the woodchucks being like a cult and stuff, and Scrooge is like, "What do the woodchucks do?" And everyone has a different answer, and then he asks Huey, and Huey has a really freaky answer, and then he just goes on Google and he's like, "My nephew might be in a cult." And then there's the one where it's like Ryan's son, I don't remember which one, it might have been Eli, where Donald's putting the triplets to bed, and he's like, "Good night, Huey," and Huey's like, "Goodbye," and he's like, "No, Huey, it's good night," and Huey's like, "Not tonight," and Donald's like,
That wasn't from Ryan, was it? I thought that was just a text post of someone random talking about what their kids
That
said.
is, but it reminded me of Ryan.
Okay.
his son was just like, what if they get me? And he was like, what is wrong with you? But it's very much that energy. And
Yes.
It's very fun. I want Patrick to be like, Patrick and Beth to both be like that. Where it's just like, you have witnessed things you should not at your tiny age.
Wit sends them to the future, and then they're talking to their parents later, and they have the line like what Launchpad said in like the Time NATO episode. Where he's like, I've seen the end of days. I'll see you there soon.
Oh, it was a good line.
Also, speaking of the beginning of the book, because we're talking earlier about like, oh yeah, the beginnings of these books, they're getting better writing, and then, like, it's not as repetitive, boring sentences. My favorite sentence from this prologue was, Beth and Patrick had been in the imagination station before. Like, yeah, I sure hope you have. This is the 9th book in the Imagination Station series.
Before when you said the line from DuckTales, because I'm rewatching Gravity Falls at the moment. I just watched Summerween with like the Halloween trickster, and then Gordy, that little kid dressed as a pirate who immediately gets eaten by the trickster at the beginning of the episode, and then like bursts out of the trickster's body at the end once the trickster's defeated, and everyone's just like nonchalantly like, oh, how you doing, Gordy? And Gordy's like, I have been traumatized. I'm just thinking like Beth and Patrick saying that to their parents. It's like, how's your day going?
So my main issue with like the overall plot setup to this book is that the like impetus behind Wit giving them this adventure is that the kids are like, we study this first aid stuff, and then it's worthless because like we aren't old enough to get in the course, and kids can't do anything, and this sucks. And so Wit's like, I'm going to send you on an adventure that shows like, one, kids aren't useless just because they're young, they can still do important things, and two, the fact, even though you weren't able to do the course, the fact that you studied this first aid stuff and read these resources on the website is still valuable and important. So what I was expecting was that at some point we're going to see some kids show up, and these kids are going to do important things that were like valuable IRL to World War II. These like kid resistance freedom fighters or whatever are going to show up, and it's going to be like, wow, kids can do stuff, and it's good that we learn this stuff. There are no kids in the story apart from Beth and Patrick. They're the only ones who are doing anything, and the only time that the knowledge that they learn comes into play is that they're like, oh, we can know how to make a baby stop crying so that we don't get caught. And then they proceed to get caught with the baby at every feasible possible opportunity along the way. Like 4 discrete instances on this single trip, they get caught by the Gestapo. So
okay, but like even what was I thinking? The bit at the end where they're like, "Oh, it's so important that
the baby doesn't make
watch
noise.
out," and then the baby makes noise, and then I was like, "Oh, Beth and Patrick, do something," and then the mom does something to shut the baby up, and I was like, "You're worthless."
They don't do
anything. The only
anything.
point during the entire adventure where they mentioned their like Red Cross like perspective training was when they had to change the baby's diaper, and Beth was like, good thing I know first aid, and then changes a baby's diaper, and I was like, what do those two things have to do with each other?
So speaking of the parachute and the silk and the scarcity of silk, like you said before, I mean, and I will grant you, you can wash silk. I mean, they could still use the silk for something else afterwards. But also, like, the rubber for the tires on the bicycle, they were like, these are the secret bikes that we've had hidden away, because if the Nazis find them, they'll confiscate them, and you'll go to jail for being in possession of what is now, like, contraband rationed goods, because the tires are made of rubber. So they go out on the bikes, and they get stopped, and they're like, how did you get these rubber bicycle tires? And they're like, it was a gift. And they're like, seems legit. Like, no questioning of either where did the people who gave these to you get the rubber, because that's against the law, or it doesn't matter where you got it, you're not allowed to have this, give it to us, we're confiscating it. And they're just like, okay.
Okay, the thing that bothered me with the bikes was the fact that they're just like, man, rubber bikes, really hard to get. Same thing, same deal with the silk, honestly. And then they're just like, we're gonna give you guys the bikes. So like, you have known them for 5 minutes.
They didn't bring the bikes back.
They didn't bring the bikes back at all. It's just like these bikes that we have saved and hidden, and they're very hard to attain. Like
Bernard had to ride them both,
and they're
back
like,
at the
"Thank
same
you,
time.
we will not return these."
Bernard had to hold on to handlebars on the inside edge and then pedal one foot on the inside pedals of each one, like Jean-Claude Van Damme, cycling all the way back.
They're like, "Guess we'll just ride Bernard in his car form instead of using the bikes."
We'll throw them in Bernard's trunk. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like the kind of the goal of the story was a very like moving target the whole time. It's like, oh, we need to find this pilot and rescue him, and that's nothing. It's nothing. I don't know.
Nothing.
I did like it overall. It was like, for what it was good, and definitely better than most of the Imagination Station books. Certainly better than the previous one. I would give it a 3.8 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
What are we doing next time, Victoria?
I don't.
We're talking about Take Every Thought Captive, which is the June OAC episode. And do you remember what we picked with it? It was like an hour ago.
Opening day.
Correct. Yes, not grand opening. I always have to think about which one's which in my mind.
Yes.
Yes, this is the Timothy Center one with the Shepherds.
Yes.
Beginning of the
Shepherds. The one with Aubrey's original voice actress.
Yes. So
ooh, I can never decide if I like this voice actress more or the later one more. I feel like the one she ended up getting for the rest of the series is a better actress.
Like Danielle Judovitz.
She seems to emote a lot more than...
Well, she certainly had her for a lot longer time.
No, I mean, like, even from her early episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's one point where it's kind of... I don't know if that's just the album order. I think it might just be the album order. Where it, like, goes back and forth.
Yeah, that's just because the album order.
Yeah. But, like, just hearing the episodes back to back, like, she emotes a lot more. So, yeah. I kind of wish that they went back to Blackguard's Revenge and they like redid it with the other voice actress, but I know they'd never do that.
What, you guys don't
Odyssey,
want...
can you bring Earl Bowen back, please?
You guys don't want an updated version out of all the episodes we could redo? You don't want us to do Blackguard's Revenge? Also, Earl Bowen was in Pinocchio.
Dude, I forgot that they canonized Richard having a really crappy clone in the books.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned that so much in the new book.
Good.
And I was just like, please stop
reminding. They mentioned it when Glossman had to, like, alight his car like a funeral pyre.
It's so good. They, like, bring that up.
As soon as Glossman strikes the match, the entire car just instantly combusts because the fumes of the cologne were so strong and flammable. You can see the Schlerens in the air.
They irrevocably just rag on Richard for, like, a long time. Most of it about his cologne.
Okay, that's what we're doing next time. Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And my recording worked this time.
Yay, we didn't lose it twice.
Yay.
You've been watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.